Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 19th of May, and this is Indexer Office Hours 258. Welcome to all those who are new. This is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. As always, this is a conversation and we do love participation, so feel free to get involved in today's conversation via voice or text. If you have any challenges with your voice, do let me know and I'll get that sorted for you. And just as a reminder, this session is going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube, so if you are concerned about privacy, just bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into today's agenda. Thanks for posting the agenda in the chat there, Juan, and I will be handing off to Carlos for the regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Repo Watch again. So this week is going to be short. We have only 3 releases to cover. I will start with Polygon 𝗟𝗂𝗂, which has a new minor version 3.6.0. This one is urgent to update for the testnet. There's going to be a hard fork in about 2 days from now, so keep that in mind. Then there's a new patch version for Arbitrum Nitro. We are now at 3.10.1. And this contains a reasonably significant bug fix. So you may want to take a look at that soon. And lastly, from Streaming Fest, we have a new tag on Go Ethereum. We have a new Polygon tag for version 2.8.0, which is unsurprising given the recent hard forks and progress on the chain, and that Streaming Fest always keeps up to date. So that's all on the execution layer clients. No new releases on the consensus layer clients, and also no new releases on the graph stack this week. So that's all for now. So I will hand over to Juan as usual.
Well, that was fast. But I think I'll beat you. So for Protocol Watch, we have a couple things to cover. Starting with forum governance, we have 5 different threads. All of them are related. And yes, there are all of the latest disputes. That's GDR 50, 51, 52, 53, and 54. All of them have been resolved as a draw. The discussion and the details is quite interesting. All of that happened in the GDR 51 discussion thread, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're interested in that, I would suggest you go through that. Essentially, it was either one of 2 different possibilities, either an RPC malfunction or a graph node bug when swapping Firehose for RPC during indexing on Avalanche chain. The details as to the exact root cause of the issue haven't been yet fully investigated. I think P2P is running some tests to try to reproduce the issue, but both of the 2 cases that we could identify were drawable settlements regardless. So we proceeded with the settlement as draw because it didn't make any sense to just keep the fisherman waiting for the return of the deposit, as well as any intrigue on whether you will be slashed or not, because again, both of the cases didn't seem to be of any malice or any wrongdoing whatsoever, and potentially they're either a graph node bug or an RPC issue, which have been called draw before, and the charter does mention the same thing. So yeah. For forum research, we don't have any new updates since last IOH. For the contracts repository, there are a few PRs, either some dependency bumps, as well as some post-indexing payments audits have been merged. But that's pretty much it, and no network subgraph updates since last IOH. So that's all for it for now. I'm going to be handing over to 𝗟𝗀𝗀 now.
Alrighty. See here, we're still syncing the subgraphs without Firehose to reproduce. It takes a while, unfortunately. Okay, cool. Thanks for the update there. Okay. Now Matthew seems to be typing. I will hand over to Rem, who we have the good fortune of having, and he will be telling us about the IISA. So without further ado, Rem, feel free to take it away.
Sure. Now, I'm actually presenting some material actually provided by Samuel. So, I can thank Samuel for the material. He's not able to be here today. At least I don't think he has made it today. I'd be surprised if he's here. And essentially, this is a little bit open. I believe a lot of these concepts have been talked about before, but of course, I can also see, the details are of interest to people, and obviously, it's I know at least some people would like to go into some of the detail a little bit more and explore it a bit more. I don't offhand know exactly which parts, so okay, if you can all see the screen I'm sharing. Am I sharing it? No, I'm not sharing it.
No longer, no, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. What I've put on the screen, and I hope most people are in a position that they can read it quite well. Tell me if you can't.
It's quite legible.
Yeah, it's quite legible. Good.
If you could turn up the brightness, that would be the only thing I would say. But other than that, it's quite legible.
Yeah. If I can turn on the brightness on your device from here, then you should be worried.
No, as in like I don't know why it's quite dim. I think is it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can change that. It's
Yeah.
Just,
That's fine. That's fine. No. It's okay. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so basically you can see there are 6 measures here, and I do wonder if I'll do a little bit of an overview explanation, and then let people probably read it a little bit and then see some questions and see if I need to go into some details per each of these, because of it's at the top there's stake to fees. That's essentially a measure of the amount of economic security provided, and also helps distribute the work in terms of the stake, obviously. Then there's the base price per epoch. Essentially, pricing comes into the selection. The dipper in its selection, or the IISA in its selection, has a price ceiling. And essentially, the prices are measured on a scale of essentially 0 to 1, where at the most the price ceiling is the price ceiling that has been set, but it can actually be lower if all indexes are bidding lower than that price ceiling. Then there's a latency-based metric here. So latency after controlling for distance and deployment. And essentially, we're trying to select or make it a factor in terms of what the latency is, improving response time on the network overall. The next one, the uptime scores, basically an availability, and this is looked over a 28-day window. I won't go too much into all the detail on this round, but essentially this is again based on the availability of the network overall. So it's or I should say other indexes on the network. So it's a relative score, and success rate is the same. And then finally, price per entity. Again, there's another, there's a price per epoch measure. There's also a price per entity measure. I'll stop there. It might be better to allow people to read it first and then see what questions come up. So I'm a vampire. There needed to be some red dribbling down it then, didn't there? I thought that, at first I thought that just meant I was up at night, but I got it. I love that MacBook animation. Very well done. And by the way, this is not being presented on macOS. Okay, so I see one observation is that entities do vary in size a lot. So we have subgraphs with low entity count and giant size. I don't, and this is a sort of question. If we have it, or if we want to look deeper, I'll probably need to consult more with Samuel, because he's the one who's been doing much more of the number crunching here. I don't know what the variability is, but I can see the potential that if that variability is very large, that's not all subgraphs, that entity count isn't always going to be the best measure. I think we've not yet seen that as a limitation, but that doesn't mean that the number of factors here, or that the pricing model will not change over time. I expect there will be some changes. This is deemed to be good enough for now. I do expect it will be refined over time. So success rate seems to be a rather low rate. It does appear to be quite low. That might change over time. It's a little bit, if you look at the weighting, it's actually, the more factors you include, if they're all independent of each other, the less each takes. So in the linear regression that Samuel's done, based on current query performance, etc., this balance has shown to produce a good range of selection. That doesn't mean it won't change over time. It might also, if you like, I guess there's another aspect of success rate. This is success rate for an indexer that qualifies. And that's an important distinction, right? So because basically what we're doing is that indexes that are below a certain percentage, and at the moment it's a pretty high percentage of the best performance value score 0. So only the top 3% of performance helps improve your rating here. But in addition to that, if what it doesn't really show here is that if you simply don't qualify for selection at all of this becomes irrelevant. I will say the qualification, I mean, you've seen the qualification criteria for the rewards eligibility oracle in previous call. The qualification criteria is pretty forgiving at the moment. It's probably going to be raised slowly over time, but it's not and but what that means is by the time that the qualification criteria is met, we know we've eliminated the really bad ones. However, it is fair to say, I mean, that qualification criteria is not intended to stop indexes being able to participate. It's really setting a bar of saying, well, this really is a minimum bar to be participating.
Makes a ton of sense. Thank you.
And what about distance from chain head? Yes, that's a good question. It's not really reflected here, I see. It will become essentially something that's treated in a reasonably equivalent way, right? Because if we have indexes that are just simply not catching up within a reasonable period of time, I think we will get to the point that they don't meet the minimum criteria. We don't have something like that in place. That's probably something that will come in the future. But it's a lot of these measures that sound good in principle, or quite possibly are good in principle. I think we first want to see what happens on the basis of reasonably simple criteria that, according to the models been done so far, the linear regression has been done so far, results in a good range of indexes being selected. We want to see how that performs and then observe the behavior, rather than trying to engineer too many other factors in advance, if you like. I find the stake to fees to be nice because the delegation centralization side effect exactly, and I see other people agree. And then, so there are always exceptions, e.g. where all indexes are failed and therefore nobody is at chainhead, etc. Query performance would obviously reduce if you were behind chainhead and others weren't. Yes, so I mean, I think that's a very good observation, like to observe that some of the things you might worry about like that can actually indirectly result in one of these scores being worse anyway, without needing to explicitly measure it. Okay, looks a little bit like the questions have slowed down. I can think of probably there's one significant factor that's not shown here, which is, let's say one indexer has been selected and is indexing a subgraph, but their current score drops slightly lower than other indexes are available. We want a certain amount of stability and efficiency in the system. So there are actually thresholds at which, once an indexer has been selected and is indexing it, there needs to be a margin of essentially another indexer being 1.5 times as good before the algorithm says, okay, let's drop the original one and switch to another one. I think to a large extent this becomes a little bit, helps the system be self-balancing, because it achieves stability when new subgraphs come to be indexed. Obviously there'll be passed around to other indexes, and of course that lowers the relative score of other indexes because their stake to fees ratios go down. And the system therefore should seek an equilibrium, but in a stable way, right, without fresh of constantly changing indexes. So these are all per subgraph, right? So if your Polygon archive node has died again, you can still be selected for other networks. The scores are across the most of this performance is across them. I do think I can see the point you're making. You know, your reliability may have dropped on one particular dimension, and in some cases even the reliability might have dropped across a large proportion of indexes on one particular dimension, and another chain as a factor. We don't yet have a very sophisticated response to that. I think there's a lot of factors that we need to observe and see what actually matters in practice, and not try to anticipate too much in advance. I tend to be a great believer in a saying that has been coined quite a long time ago, that complex systems that work tend to evolve from simple systems that work. And you need to start with a simple system that works and then refine it so that it becomes a better match for a wider set of variations, essentially, is the challenge here. Right, okay, what other... I'll probably also mention the select what's not shown here is there is decentralization bias built into the algorithm, so that essentially the selection prefers indexes that have unique ASN organizations and unique geographic locations. There are some limitations to some of those measurements. It can never be perfect. And this is a little bit of a soft constraint, but the algorithm does try to find diversity satisfying candidates first before falling back to finding the overall best score if that constraint can't be met. I've got a little elf waving at me. I have to explain that one. Oh, it's not an elf, I see. What other questions do people have? I'm just scanning through some of the documentation, seeing what might be relevant. I believe most of these factors have been discussed before. Tell me if anything sounds new. feed's being taken over by memes, I think. All questions answered? I don't fundamentally have more material than this to present. I think this is the just some underlying mathematical details about normalization, but I think that's not as much the point here.
We've got a couple more questions in the chat there from Vince.
All right. Do we have a breakdown of those metrics? What what is a perfect score on each? Okay, so let me walk through them one by one. So stake to fees, there isn't a perfect score per se, right? Because it's relative. And essentially, well, okay, I guess the perfect score here is if you've got 0 query fees, then you normalized to 1, right? Because you've got maximum capacity headroom. So as the higher you get, if you like, the staked minus locked divided by total fees, which is essentially what this measure is. The closer you get to 1. And then the next one. So the base price per epoch. It's this is so a perfect score would be charging 0, I guess, which we're not expecting anyone to do. It becomes relative, and it's just the proportion between 0 and the ceiling that determines where you are on that. So then the latency after controlling for distance and deployment. So this is scored. It's actually scored. This is a little bit more complex. It's scored via linear regression. So it's controls for distance, deployment, and query characteristics. And I'm not the person to ask much more of the detail exactly how that linear regression is done, but essentially it does build into it that it's got how to explain this. I mean, mathematically, it's got an upper bound confidence interval, so it actually, for indexes that have few samples or inconsistent performance, it's actually at this stage biased and giving the benefit of the doubt, if you like, somewhat, but it's really if you like a relative score, right? If you get the maximum, if you get the best latency of everyone, you get the full score, and then beneath that it scales down to 0. And the uptime score, so the uptime score, I think I mentioned this previously. So if you've got it's actually really you can think of it as almost like a bit of a bonus available for the highest performing indexes. So if your uptime is below 97% of the best performance value, it's actually 0 for this factor, and obviously if it's equal to the best performance, then it's 1. So it's a top 3% band that basically gets a boost by having good uptimes. in the success rate, and let's see if there's any. No other questions. Success rate is basically exactly the same type of formula as uptime. Again, it's a top 3%, and price per entity. That's again it. We talked about the base price per epoch. It's basically the same, but based on the entity pricing. Now, someone said, "Can I share a link to the presentation?" I don't have this as a shareable link at the moment, but I think I can produce that and share it. So is query success over 20 days too, or shorter time period? So let me just check. I think it is all over 20. Yes. I believe all of this is, yeah, all of it's over 28-day period. We're only looking at data for the last 28 days, basically. Did I go over how normalization works? It's basically that each of these gets given a value, internally first gets given a value between 0 and 1, where 0 is the worst, 1's the best, and then multiplied by the weight. So then you end up, again, each index having a score between 0 and 1 based on all those components. Does that answer the question about normalization? Sounds like a quick answer, but yeah. Okay, good. Look, I do think a really key factor of this is, right, we've done quite a lot of analysis and modeling based on current network operation, and we are going to have to look closely and adjust as we go. But of course, we're comparing it to if you're looking at indexing rewards, none of this is being taken into account. So we're moving from a model where none of this really matters to a model where a few key things that have been shown through modeling to actually select a good group of indexes based on the current network performance and to distribute the work across indexes. We, of course, expect that as the quality criteria become built into how the network operates, people's general indexes, general performance actually gravitates towards the good, and we start having fewer indexes on the network that aren't providing value to end consumers. And we'll need to adjust some of these factors as we go. I'm sure, right? That's just a matter of monitoring a live system, seeing what the data is telling us, and seeing how to optimize the network for all participants involved. Both from the participants from the indexes side, that we're allowing indexes to fairly get work, while obviously prioritizing indexes that are obviously serving the network versus some current index behavior that's not actually serving the network, while also optimizing through that process for the overall performance of the network for consumers, so that the graph is somewhere that people know that they can come for the best reliable service. Can I scroll down? I can. It's I've probably talked through some of these factors, and I'm not sure it's some of this becomes lots of wordy stuff that's not really adding much, I think. Can you select which slides would you? Because I think we've covered this. Have a look. Tell me if there's anything new to you. Am I looking for any feedback, thoughts from indexes? The answer to that is always happy to, looking forward to feedback and getting your reactions. I think in this instance, actually, I don't think this is particularly new material. Our priority really is to start getting some of this live, which is happening, as we're working very hard to actually get this live and see it happening in practice, because I think one of the most valuable areas of feedback now is going to be actually having indexes experience the system while we start piloting it, and giving us feedback and saying what works and what needs to be adjusted, rather than the more abstract stuff. When will this be live? I actually find that hard to predict. We've got the whole system. We've demonstrated in tests a complete end-to-end cycle. We're being quite careful with our testing. We encountered, certainly from my point of view, I encountered some delays I didn't expect. But we're also not really keen to rush it too quickly. We wanted to make sure it's a stable network upgrade. My hope is we still get it out. We still get it out this month. That people are piloting it. It's I actually thought we were going to get it out last month, so trying to get us there as quickly as possible, but don't want to push it out before it's ready. How can people raise their hand to pilot? That's a good question, but I think that'll become very clear when we're rolling it out. It'll be all of the. It won't be a very constrained pilot. It'll be very quickly. It'll become open to quite a large group of indexes. But what we'll be trying to do is not try and do all subgraphs at once in one afternoon, right? We want to see how the network's responding and what the experience is like for individual indexes. What's on this question? How can indexes help? It's a good question. It'll very, I think it will very quickly come to the point that was, when we do start rolling it out, if you are willing to turn it on, to engage with dips and try it even at a small scale and see how it works for you. And I see I probably missed the question. What are the roadblocks? So the roadblocks are really the number of different systems that we are integrating and making sure it's working across. And actually, at the moment, it's interesting. We've been able to. AI has helped a huge amount, but actually, what it's helping us at the moment, and at least helping me, is being able to construct far better test scenarios that we can run on sort of a local simulated network without having to sort of manually, sort of almost very clumsily, roll it out to a test net and find things out that way. So it's a slightly ironically, the fact that we're able to do better testing internally might be appearing to slow it down because because the quality of testing is actually, I think, at the moment increasing before we're rolling it out onto other networks. Yeah, exactly.
We've got another question from Matthew asking about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, is there a roadmap for tooling? It's being all of the indexer agent, etc. changes are already being made. They are not part of the current indexer agent release that you're running. We to protect the branches, we did it on a separate dips branch in which we're iterating much more rapidly and making changes much more rapidly than we wanted to expose the production indexer agent to at this stage. Having said that, there are actually changes that have been made to indexer service and indexer agent that were made as a result of the testing we were doing for dips, and we discovered some. And we discovered some issues that would cause an issue if we rolled it out the way it was. Any other questions? Might be just about, I think I've tried to answer everything I've seen. Quickly go and claim my Pope as well.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Any thoughts? Matthew's in the chat saying awesome setup updates as always, Ram. So it's a nice compliment there. So just to reiterate, we're looking at potentially an end of month release, assuming everything goes well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. It'd be worth then coordinating on that, just so people are aware and switch it on and use it and share feedback. It's good to hear that internal testing is working well, so that when it launches, it will probably be pretty stable. But yeah, it would be great to get some live feedback as well. So yeah, I'll coordinate with you to try and get something on the books for end of month. Just as like a quick announcement saying, hey, this is all ready to use. Any other thoughts, questions for folks in the chat? Is the POAP working well? It should hopefully be working well. Give us a
Work
shout
for me.
Yeah, okay, fantastic, amazing. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay, well, I'll take the opportunity to say thank you, Rem, for your segment there. Really do appreciate that. Seems like folks had all their questions answered, which is great, and you got some nice positive feedback towards the end as well from Matthew, which is fantastic. Any final thoughts before we wrap this segment? Okay. Gemma saying thank you as well. Good stuff. Okay. Well, then I will take the opportunity for the last couple of minutes to ask if there are any future topics people would like to discuss in the coming IOHs. So I'm plotting out what the next couple of weeks looks like. So if there's anything that people want to hear from, specific people they want to hear from, or specific topics people want to cover, now's the opportunity to share that there. Just feel free to type anything in the chat box. Roadmap, of course, and how AI is speeding things up. Yes, yes, we've got that set in for a bi-weekly, and I believe the upcoming week, which is, let me have a look at the calendar. So yes, the 26th is part of the bi-weekly roadmap updates. So we'll have Slim with us to discuss all of the latest updates and how AI is speeding things up. So yeah, looking forward to that one there. Any other things people would like to hear more of? Would love to hear perspectives. Ario, when? Good question. I mean, we've got Rem in the house, so maybe if you have any updates on anything since we last spoke about it, Rem, would be great to get some updates on that.
Yeah, so essentially what happened is Rio got caught up in the same test and release cycle, but it seems to be going well, not discovering any issues on the Rio side, just trying to get a complete set of contracts which have all been audited, all tested and deployed, and then we'll be able to enable Rio.
Nice. Any timelines on that by any chance?
I'll be disappointed if we don't have it live this month, but it I hate to make predictions. Things have come up that delayed it much more than I'd hoped. It doesn't feel to be much that is holding it back, other than making sure we're going through the entire proper testing process and getting it deployed. And I guess until we go through that process, we don't know what other surprises we find.
Yeah, makes sense. So it sounds like there's going to be a big update, a big release this end of this month with a variety of things, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know it's not always easy predicting things, but yeah, just giving people a rough estimate is good, and hopefully, fingers crossed, things go well and everything gets released end of month. Awesome. Any other topics people would like? Thank you, by the way, Rem, for being able to just share a quick update there. That's super helpful. Any particular thoughts on topics people would like to have covered in future IOH episodes? I would love to hear people's perspectives. Maybe if there's some stuff we could get resolved here, or if people have any things that we'd like to add into future episodes, then we can get that locked in as well. Oh, I see Carlos is typing. Now Carlos is no longer typing. Okay, well, if there's nothing that's coming up, feel free to interrupt me, Carlos, if there's something you have in mind, or just pop in the chat and I'll pause. Otherwise, I'll take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone who's joined today's Index Office Hours, and thank you to Rem for presenting the IISA. We hope you guys found that helpful and your questions are answered. Of course, as always, feel free to shoot more questions if anything comes up, and we will try and get your questions answered. Great. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you again same time next week for another edition of Index Office Hours. Take care. Bye-bye.